Israeli warplanes have hit several targets in Yemen, including the main airport in the capital, Sanaa. And there were scenes of chaos inside the terminal when the airport was hit. The head of the World Health Organization was inside the airport with a delegation when it came under attack. Yemen's Houthi rebels say Israel also struck the port city of Hodeida. Israel's military said it hit military targets. The Houthis have repeatedly launched strikes on Israel, saying that they're in solidarity with Palestinians in Gaza. Let's speak to Hannah Porter for more, a specialist on Yemen and the Houthis, also a contributing author to the anthology, The Houthi Movement in Yemen. Welcome. One of today's targets, as we've heard, or one of the places that's been hit, is the Sanaa airport. Were you surprised to see that come under attack?
No, that's not particularly surprising. The areas around the airport have been targeted previously, as there are some military installations nearby. That being said, the airport itself is a civilian airport and should never be targeted. Indeed, a number of people were killed as a result of these Israeli strikes and many more injured. So this was not surprising, but also not unprecedented.
How do you think these strikes are being viewed by the Houthis? How much does this raise the stakes for them? Does it bring more pressure on them?
It may bring some more domestic pressure on them. I'm sure that northern Yemenis living under Houthi control are not happy to be on the receiving end of further airstrikes after many, many years of warfare. But at the same time, I think that these airstrikes that are being conducted directly by Israel, it really affirms the Houthi narrative. And this is a narrative that the Houthis have had for decades, which is that they are at war with Israel and the US. And now for years, they have been at war with the Saudi-led coalition that was backed by the US. But now they can credibly say that they are actually at war with the US and Israel. And I think that that really bolsters their narrative, which is extremely important to them. And certainly this will further justify attacks by the Houthis on Israel, which appear to be increasingly successful from the Houthi point of view.
Just how helpful is that for the Houthis, this international platform that they're getting and the boosting of their narrative, as you say?
They find this extremely valuable. So they've always aimed to bolster their narrative and also raise their profile, not only in Yemen and the region, but internationally. And I think in the past year, they've really succeeded at doing that, especially due to their attacks on the Red Sea and also their attacks on Israel. So I think that they've won the hearts and minds of some people who believe that the Houthis are truly acting in the interest of Gaza, in the defense of Palestinians. Of course, that is just their propaganda. And certainly, ultimately, Yemeni civilians are the ones that are going to suffer from continued warfare in Yemen.
So when Israel is looking at the Houthis as a security threat, what are the biggest challenges it would face in dealing with the Houthis?
So this is especially challenging for Israel, and there's a few reasons that Yemen and the Houthis should not be seen as equivalent to Hezbollah or Hamas, in Lebanon or in Gaza. Because, first of all, Yemen is much further away. It is much more difficult to conduct operations, especially targeted operations, from Israel in Yemeni territory. Second, I don't believe that Israel has been paying that much attention to the Houthis in recent years, whereas with Hamas and Hezbollah and other members of the so-called axis of resistance, Israel has many years, if not decades, of intel on these groups and their leaders. That I very much doubt is the case when it comes to the Houthis. So I think when we expect that maybe the Houthis will be the next to fall in the line of the axis of resistance, we have to also be cautious in seeing that Yemen is not equivalent to these other countries, despite its connection. And it is certainly going to be a much more difficult target, not just for Israel, but for the US, the UK, and for Saudi Arabia, as we have seen in years past.
Well, thank you so much for joining us with your insights today. That is Hannah Porter, a Yemen and Houthi specialist.